We're learning so much today. So let me ask our experts, what coping strategies do we often resort to deal with stress and anxiety? And how has the pandemic impacted these? Andrew?
One of the coping strategies that may take various forms is avoidance and distraction.
Wow.
And the truth is, we do need a break. We do need to be able to reset. The challenge is when we engage in things that don't prepare us to re-engage, that don't rejuvenate us, that don't empower us to, feel better and think better. A lot of the times we want to feel better, but we don't realize we won't be able to feel better unless we're thinking better. So finding coping strategies that help us to pull away, but to come back to these situations, I think is really, really critical. One of the things that I do is I journal. It is a lifeline for me, and it helps me to see, okay, what am I thinking? How am I feeling? What do I want to think? How do I want to feel? And then I can re-engage with the situation. The situation hasn't changed, but I have. So I think employing coping strategies that move us beyond coping to actually addressing and thriving, that's important.
Oh, that's really good. Well, why is growing in resilience so important? And how can stress and anxiety help us grow in as resilient people? Mary, what do you think?
Mhm. Well, Andrew said it when he talked about how one of the number one strategies we use when we're dealing with anxiety is avoidance. And there is some benefit in being able to kind of disconnect from the situation. But unfortunately, when you're always avoiding the thing that causes you anxiety, it just increases in its power over your
Mhm.
life. So, resiliency is being able to tolerate the ups and downs of life with confidence that you can get through with God's help. So, it's confidence, it's faith, it's a growth mindset that I can endure difficult situations because I'm going to grow. I'm going to become stronger. My faith will become stronger as well. And what resilience also is about is having an internal locus of control. Internal as in I can control my reactions, my actions. External locus of control is my moods and my feelings go up and down based on what's happening around me, based on what other people are doing. So when I can flip to an internal locus of control, even if I'm in a situation where I really don't have a lot of control over what's going on outside of me, I can manage my internal response. And there's resilience in that.
Wow, that is really, really helpful. Harrison, your thoughts?
Mhm. I agree with Mary. I think it's so important. One of the things I like is self affirmation as to who we are and what we can do versus what we cannot do, and getting the mind to really come to that point of looking at there is always light at the end of the tunnel, regardless of how dark it is. I tell people there's always a light switch in the darkest room of your life. So resiliency is just finding that switch and turning it on, and you're going to see a big difference. So I agree with Mary. Yes, absolutely.
Well, that's so good. I think that's such a hopeful response, isn't it? And we were created by God and He gave us resilience. That's part of being human. So we need to lean into that and grow in that. What is a biblical response to stress and anxiety? Andrew, I'll let you start.
I believe making room for God
Mm.
is important. And we talked about it before, God being with us. It's one thing to know that up here, but it's another thing to know it in an experiential way, in a relational dynamic with God. So what does that mean to you right now, where you are? Where is God? What is He saying to you, right? About you? Because He has something in every moment for us so that we can continue to grow closer with Him. And it's about being still enough and open to see what that is and to really invite Him and engage with Him in the moment.
No, thank you for that. And when we look into scripture, we see real people, don't we? And we see people who
Certainly.
have struggled just as we struggle. And I think that's why the Bible gives me such hope, because there's so many stories of real people that faced real stress in their life. And then we see how their trust in God brought them through. So not that the Bible isn't practical, because actually I think it is, but there's also application. So, what are some practical steps people can take to deal with stress and anxiety and experience wholeness? And when we say wholeness, we mean physical, relational, spiritual, emotional wholeness. Mary?
Yeah, when people have anxiety, they can often end up becoming anxious about anxiety. They become scared of it. And so I think changing your relationship with anxiety, recognizing that anxiety is a very natural response to a perceived threat, whether it's real or not. So if we can give ourselves self compassion and grace and accept that in our humanity, these are normal responses to have, it actually gives us that additional resilience to tolerate those intense emotions and kind of realize that we're going to be doing okay. So I would just encourage people who struggle with anxiety, like don't be beating yourself up. Life is hard when you're trying to push through white knuckling it. So when you can give yourself that empathy that your soul needs and that acceptance and compassion, that is going to increase your ability to handle it.
Really good. Harrison, your thoughts?
My thoughts is we need to manipulate the brain a little bit. And I usually ask people to journal, empty their thoughts, especially before bedtime, because anxiety causes people to have disruptive sleep patterns. To empty their thoughts, write down all the negative things on paper and actually see what they're writing down so the brain can accept the fact that you're not going to forget what is causing you to be very anxious. And then you can look at all these negative things and see how much positivity you can draw from yourself. Like we talk about resiliency, get the positivity out and manipulate the brain that you have more positive in you than negative, but you need to write it down and get it out of your system.
Wow, that's a really good thought. And maybe praying over those negative
Yes,
thoughts, right?
absolutely. Always praying.
Yeah. And what about you, Andrew?
I think we overlook the power of breathing,
Mm.
right? To really still ourselves and breathe in a way that calms our bodies. A frantic, panicked body is not going to be able to think calm, soothing thoughts. So, first, stilling the body so that we can then access and even receive the peace that God has for us that will guard our hearts and our minds.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you again so much to each one of you for helping us navigate this important conversation. Thank you.